one of our goals at Orange Cap Games is to be like Web3 Pop Mart. And the United States led a lot of consumer trends, right? It's totally on its head right now. The consumer trends, like Labubu was big in China, maybe like 12 to 18 months before it really hit America. If you want to see the next consumer trend, look to China first. The people who grew up with Pokemon are now adults and have adult money and are going through their midlife crisis where they look back at their time when they have youth and they can't buy youth, but they can buy the Pokemon cards, right? And so the average age of consumer for luxury brands, Gucci, Louis Vuitton, all these, it's going down about 1 year every year for the last like 10, 15 years. This is a crazy change, right? And the average purchase size is also getting much, much, much smaller. You know, sort of my take on this is like, if you look, Gen Z no longer aspires to own a house. And so they're not really saving. And so they actually have more discretionary income. $150 t-shirt from Kith, like, all right, like, why not? $200 Pokemon, like, ATB, all right, like, okay, right? It's not like I'm saving that money for something else. But when you look at Vibes, we've way over-invested in the quality of what Vibes is if it was just for the sake of Vibes, right? Meaning, like, we've made our own paper. Like, that's a crazy intense...
You made your own paper?
So, yeah, so Set 2 for Vibes is on orange core paper. And this is, like, a very intense endeavor to, like, make a new paper core. Like, this is not a small or easy feat. And this is like the type of endeavor that, like, if the goal was just produce Vibes, like, it's not worth doing that amount of effort to R&D for a single product, right? But Vibes for us is sort of a flagship product that also just shows, hey, here's what we're capable of, right? I think it's something like 59% of Vibes cards come back a PSA 10. That's higher than any other card game in the market.
Because of the quality of the...
We're really good at manufacturing trading cards, right? And, like, we're also making...
Spencer, welcome to the Chinsanity Show, powered by 852. It's an honor to have you here. I know we saw each other in Korea, in Singapore, and all that. But Spencer, how has your Asia trip been? I feel like you've been a lot of places in Asia.
Yeah, it's been really awesome. I mean, like, you know, it's no secret, right? Like, Asia is really important overall to crypto for a number of reasons. A lot of traders here, a lot of projects here, a lot of exchanges here. Just a lot of different factors, and it's kind of a different beast. And I think kind of going into this, I was a little bit unsure for us on the Moonbird side, like how big was our community in Asia? And it's been like really incredible. And it's like we're starting from a much stronger position than I think I anticipated us doing coming into this trip, which has been really exciting. And obviously, you know, we did our sort of announcement that we're having a token coming in Singapore. And so there's a lot of kind of build up and coordination around that. So you know, I think all of it's been really good. We've been really well received by the local communities, Singapore, Korea, Hong Kong. It's just been great to kind of see the energy out there, and you know, really this has been some of the first kind of in-person events that we've had since acquiring Moonbirds the brand. And so, you know, it's really kind of been exciting, exhausting, but exciting to be on this side of this equation and getting to talk to everyone. Yeah.
I remember going to the Korea event, and I was there pretty early, and there was already a line, you know, forming, and it was raining that day too, right? It was raining, and people were just lining up. I think I was there like at least 20 minutes early because I was at a dinner, and we were like, oh, why not just stop by Moonbirds event? And yeah, it was really cool to see in Korea, like.
So Korean community is awesome. Like when they kind of hop on something, they really get excited about it. And like, you know, something that's been really interesting to see too is like the evolution of just like fashion in Korea is really interesting. Like I've gone there a couple of times over the years, and you know, I think like sort of our brand identity being like black and red on the Moonbird side, like if you go out in Korea right now, everyone's wearing all black. Like this just like happens to align really well. And like I think there's sort of this like taste level in Korea in the fashion and sort of culture and art side of things that I think really aligns with a lot of our core values, which is also just kind of like be cool. And so it was cool to see that kind of translate, and people got it like immediately. It wasn't such a hard pitch of like, this is a cool brand. People like experienced the coolness of the brand, and it kind of stuck with them. And I think that's, you know, important, and Korea is an important testing ground of that, because so much of what's going on in Korea right now is art and culture and branding, right? Like if you look at a country whose major export is intellectual property, like, you know, Korea is probably one of the top, if not top of that list, right? It's got to be like Korea, Japan, like this is a major export for that country. So being welcomed, when we're doing an IP play, being welcomed so strongly in a country where IP is a focal point was really like exciting for us.
Yeah. I mean, Korea, I think, is number one now with IP and stuff like that, especially even, you know, like yourself, like coming from the West, like seeing the Korean culture, like K-pop and like you said, fashion, all the shows now, right? It's crazy. Back in the day when I was growing up, man, like, if you listen to any K-pop, people just look at you. You're kind of weird.
Well, that's certainly not the case anymore. Yeah. And it's interesting too, because again, like it's very much an export. Like it's consumed outside of Korea almost more than it's consumed in Korea. And U.S. market is actually one of the I think it's the largest K-pop market, if not one of the largest K-pop markets, like larger than Korea.
That's crazy.
Like definitely that's the case. And so the sort of overlap and kind of cultural like merging going on between the West and Korea is like very significant, and I think is very interesting, and is part of going to be part of our strategy there. So
yeah, no, that's cool. Did you when you were out in Asia, in Korea, Singapore, did you get a chance to try the local food and stuff like that?
Oh yeah, I love Korean food. Like like in New York, I own a car specifically for the purposes of going to Fort Lee, New Jersey to get Korean food. Like Korean food is fantastic. It's really good. My only gripe is that when I go to Korea, like all I eat for the whole time I'm there, I was there for like 10 days this time, is beef. And beef is really good in Korea. But like as soon as I leave, every time and I eat something that's not exactly beef, I'm like, oh, right, there's other food. Yeah. My body is like, oh, like, thank you, like a vegetable.
Yeah, I feel like in Korea, it was like very like protein heavy.
It's very protein, which I love protein. Like, don't get me wrong. That's generally, I would prefer protein heavy than not protein heavy. But like, it's at some point you're like, wait, I've literally only eaten beef for like 10 days.
It's like, is there a salad around or something like that? No, yeah. That's funny. Yeah, no, that's really cool. But yeah, I mean, as a whole, right? I mean, you mentioned a little bit, right, with you guys, Moonbirds and Vibes, like the Asia market, right? Like, how is it different from maybe last time you visit in Asia? Like, how you been feeling the vibes and stuff like that?
Well, I mean, so the good thing about Asia for us is like we're very collectibles focused as a company at Orange Cap Games overall, right? Like you mentioned, the last time we were in Asia was last year. We did our launch for Vibes, the trading card game, which we made for Pudgy Penguins in Singapore. And, we had this incredible reception. I think it was like 1,700 people kind of came by and checked that out. Like it was this great experience, not only from Web3, but even just people outside of it, right? Like part of the reason I'm in Hong Kong right now is because there's a giant card show going on in Macau. Oh. And like, we've always straddled this like collectibles and non-collectibles world, and collectibles is just huge in Asia right now. And so it makes sense to people, right? Like one of our goals at Orange Cap Games is to be like Web3 Pop Mart, right? And I think this is a really good corollary because Pop Mart is many things, right? Pop Mart has its own IP, but it also harnesses other people's IP, right? So Hirono is like Pop Mart's native IP, but they'll do like Hirono times Little Prince. They'll also do like completely separate, like here's the like Star Wars figure, right? Like there's many different facets to what it is. And, explaining what our company is in the West is a little bit more complicated because most people in the West don't have as good a sense of what Pop Mart itself is and how successful it is, right? But one of the beauties of just like being in Asia is like when we're talking with anyone from investors to like holders to any gambit, like we can just be like, oh, our goal is to be the Pop Mart of Web3, right? And so fundamentally what Pop Mart is a distribution play, right? And a distribution play that benefits its native IP, but also can be harnessed for others, right? And so that's where, when we unify and we look at what is Orange Cap Games as a brand, it's more than one thing, right? But what's the unified focus? And this is where like, we produce Vibes, which is the Pudgy Penguins trading card game. How does that matter in the context if we also own Moonbirds and we produce, Moonbirds physical collectibles, right? Like, how do you marry these ideas? And to me, it makes a lot of sense, right? Like if fundamentally you're a distribution play, then like the goal is have multiple different products that benefit from that, and they all sort of benefit each other, right? And that's what Pop Mart was and is, and Pop Mart is this heinously successful company, like probably one of the most successful companies in the last 2 years. But it's kind of funny because it's starting to shift. Like because of Labubu, people in America like have started to kind of know what Pop Mart is. But like if you talk to people about Pop Mart in America, they're like, oh, Labubu, right? There's not like a greater understanding of like this is a company that was incredible. I mean, doing like I think they're doing like crazy numbers. Like one of the fastest growth companies in the last several years. Like, but that was true before Labubu got big, right? That is only part of what Pop Mart is. And so I think for us, it's like this is where we really have this collectibles focus, and Asia just gets that, right? Like a crazy trend too is like it used to be that collectibles kind of like Japan kind of led in collectibles, and then they would come to the West, and then they would come to the rest of Asia. But like the West for a while kind of like in the United States led a lot of consumer trends, right? It's totally on its head right now. The consumer trends, like Labubu was big in China, maybe like 12 to 18 months before it really hit America, right? It's actually completely reversed over the last couple of years where like, if you want to see the next consumer trend, look to China first, which is something that would have been crazy to have said even like 2-3 years ago, right?
Why do you think that is? Is this just maybe the culture, the internet, or just time? Like,
I think it has to do with where specifically China is in its growth curve right now. So I think like for quite a while, like, so China's hit this point where like it had this crazy, crazy growth for many, many years, right? And it was all about like upward mobility and all these kind of things. And right now, but kind of the same people were at the forefront of that growth, right? And so now it's not growing quite as quickly. And so there's been this big shift from we are growing quickly by producing products for international audiences to we are increasing consumption domestically. And, if you go to some of the main streets in Shanghai that 5-10 years ago used to be international sort of tourist destinations, right? Now it's mostly Chinese local buying collectibles products, right? And so if you have this class of people that made a lot of money, there isn't quite as much upper mobility as there used to be, right? So they're maybe not working quite as hard. The economy isn't growing. What you do is you have leisure and you have consumption, right? And so, I think this is sort of similar to what happened in France, maybe a couple hundred years ago. There's sort of this French leisure class of China has changed from a globalist country to a much more contained ecosystem. And what do you have people spend more money on, right? Collectibles is a really, really good way to continue to drive consumption. And so you see the most dedicated effort for the growth of the collectibles industry coming in a very concentrated way from China. And everything's made there anyway, so they can just get to market much quicker, right? And so the quality of products coming out of China is also much, much, much higher than it has been historically, right? Especially in the collectible space. I think that's why we see Labubu being this product that really hit with the Western market, but it came from China first is a really interesting thing. Well, and the IP comes from Hong Kong, right? So very interesting to see that kind of arc. But yeah, I think you have to look at consumer trends outside the West, and it's great. The next one I think that I'm looking at very closely right now is so if you see Pop Mart's next product they came out with is Pop Blocks, like a Lego competitor.
Oh, interesting. And it's just like Lego too. It's just ish.
If you go to Pop Mart in the United States, they're basically sold out of everything except for Pop Blocks, which are full on the shelf. If you go to Pop Mart in Asia, Pop Blocks sell pretty well. And so this is if you're looking for what's the next thing that's selling well in Asia that's not yet selling in the US, it's their Lego competitor. Now, does this mean that it will for sure have this I don't know. But it's something that's very interesting to look at. I think also when we're looking at generally the toys and collectibles trends, brick products I think are set up to have a really big year. Pokemon license just went from Mega Bloks to Lego. And that's a really big deal.
Yeah, I remember they made announcements a couple months ago, right? Pokemon said we're going to be in Lego and stuff.
That's going to bring Lego to an even greater forefront than it's been for quite a while. And I think that there's a lot of people betting big. I think I think that is part of why Pop Mart, for example, is doubling down on brick type collectibles, is because that seems like a forefront thing to do right now.
No, it's interesting how you guys you're saying for OCAP games, you guys want to be the Pop Mart of Web3. And so are you guys looking to create collectibles, toys, and stuff like that?
Yeah, so we are fundamentally a collectibles company, right? And so I think our sort of arc has been we made Vibes, which is Putty Penguins trading card game, which we've very thankfully been very successful with. And as that's grown, we're okay, do we want to work with more other IPs? We have a lot of inbound interest. We kind of came to the conclusion that hey, I think the next step for us that makes sense is let's have our own IP. Let's make some collectibles around that. That's the next step, right? Even Pop Mart, not only do they collab with other IPs, they do have their own IPs too, right? And so you kind of need a flagship IP inside your umbrella to continue to grow, right? But when you look at Vibes, we've way over invested in the quality of what Vibes is if it was just for the sake of Vibes, right? Meaning we've made our own paper. That's a crazy intensity.
You made your own paper?
So yeah, so set 2 for Vibes is on orange core paper. So if you've ever handled Pokemon cards, it's blue core, or Magic is blue core.
Blue core.
So if you shine a flashlight through a Pokemon card or Magic card, you rip it in half, there's blue in the middle. And the core of the paper gives it this really specific functionality, which is when you bend it, does it retain BEM memory, right? So trading cards need to be able to be shuffled and still be collectible, right? And so it's really important the type of paper you print on. Our first set of Vibes was printed on blue core, but we actually moved away from blue core to make our own paper stock called orange core, right? And this is a very intense endeavor to make a new paper core. This is not a small or easy feat at all, especially our goal was to the quality of blue core or better, right? And this is the type of endeavor that if the goal was just produce Vibes, it's not worth doing that amount of effort to R&D for a single product, right? But Vibes for us is sort of a flagship product that also just shows, hey, here's what we're capable of, right? I think it's something like 59% of Vibes cards come back a PSA 10. That's higher than any other card game on the market.
Is it because of the quality of the...
We're really good at manufacturing trading cards, right? And like we're also making paper, and like, you know, we've been approached by some other games too that just all they want is, hey, we just want to buy your paper, right? Like you have to understand getting blue core paper is not easy, right? It's monopolized by one company that makes it, the real stuff. There's tons of knockoffs, but real blue core is monopolized by one company, and you know, they only make so much of it. And if Magic and Pokemon are having crazy years, like both of them are having right now, they'll buy basically all the paper on the market, right? And so if you are a game that prints on blue core and Magic and Pokemon want your paper, guess who they give the paper to? Magic and Pokemon. And so there's actually like this big interest in the TCG space of like, is there another paper that is of that quality or better that we could print on? And so like that was a play that we've made with Orange Core. We haven't sort of announced any other partners that are using it yet, but like, again, this is sort of our bigger vision is like, how can we make products that are like to the highest quality possible? But like, you know, I think one of the things that we care a lot about at Orange Cap Games is revenue, right? I think like we're in a revenue meta in crypto overall. I don't think that this is a meta that's kind of here and gone tomorrow. I think that this is aligned with where the new inflows of capital in crypto are coming from. They're coming from the public markets. And so public market investors are evaluating crypto companies in the same way they evaluate public market companies, right? And so, you know, for us, it's like, okay, what are ways that we can grow revenue both in and out of crypto through the things that we're doing, right? We're always really obsessed with like, how do we make the nicest possible product? But like once you've made the nicest possible product, what are the ancillary benefits and how can you value capture around that to drive greater revenue for the company, right? I think like, this is a little bit weirdly a contrarian view in crypto that I have, which is like the number one goal that you need as a crypto company is to keep the lights on and to exist tomorrow. And I see a lot of crypto companies that they don't make money. They're not generating cash flows. They're not generating revenue. They definitely have expenses. And so where does that money come from, right? A lot of them, it's like the answer is like sell their own token for a period. But like you don't see that being a sustainable long run thing over 10 to 20 years in most cases. Like it can kind of work. Like there's ways to make it. But like if you want to grow a company that continues to grow, not just like exist over those 10 to 20 years, like the most important thing is have sustainable revenue that is growing at some cadence. Now, the most valuable revenue is revenue that benefits your own IP. So for us, like our most valuable revenue to our company is selling Moonbirds related products. Like I think that's very clear, but that doesn't mean that other revenue is not valuable, right? As a company, having more resources is good, having more reach, having more access in the industry, right? Having more product lines on shelves, like all of these things benefit each other in really major ways.
Yeah. The paper thing, I didn't even notice thing about what you guys are doing because I thought paper was just paper, right? The normal people, right? Just I didn't know you said there's variations. There's a blue one, and I guess you guys create the orange one and stuff like that. But that does make a difference when you hold it, right, and stuff like that. The card. And
it's a type of thing that like when you handle trading cards, like you can even feel like have you ever felt the difference between like Japanese Pokemon cards and like Korean Pokemon cards and Chinese Pokemon cards? Like they're totally different, right? And they're different because they're printed on a different paper. The only one that uses the real blue core from Europe is the Japanese one. Oh. Korean and Chinese Pokemon are printed on it's still a blue cored paper, but it's not like the real blue core.
Oh, interesting. So are most TCG cards, like you said, blue core? That's what they're printed on, or it really depends on where manufactured.
Like you can run down the list. It's like Magic, Lorcana, Pokemon are on blue core. One Piece prints on its own paper, and like I'm pretty sure One Piece paper is like much thicker, and I'm pretty sure that's because they couldn't figure out the bendability part of it. So like One Piece cards actually like don't really bend, and but they do retain bend memory if they bend them. So they made them thicker so they were harder to bend. Like that's how they solved it. Like it's a very hard problem to solve, right? There's a reason that there's a monopoly on this. Or was a monopoly until we introduced Orange Core, right? Core, yeah. And so like, as a consumer, you may not be like most consumers are not like, oh, like it's not blue core paper, like I'm gonna pass. But like when you handle it, you're like, oh, this feels cheap, right? And like, why does it feel cheap, right? And
because it's the other type of paper and stuff.
It's not the right paper, right? Yeah. Like, and if you handle trading cards, like even if you can't necessarily express why it is, like as soon as something feels different, you're like, this feels like wildly different, right?
Different, yeah. We look at the detail, even when it comes to paper, it's like there's so much, I think, variety in that. It's so interesting.
Well, I mean, especially like at its most fundamental level, like trading cards are ink and paper, right? And if they're shiny, a thin strip of metal. Like that's all that's what this item is. So like if you're making trading cards, you better care a lot about what the ink is, what the paper is, and what the shiny piece of metal is. Like that matters a lot. It's like the only thing that you're doing.
That's true.
Right?
Yeah, that's true. That is true if you come and think about it at its core and stuff like that. But no, that is really interesting about the paper thing. And I didn't even know you guys created your own paper, the orange paper. It was just crazy.
Yeah, I mean, cool. This is the thing where like it matters a lot to our collectible side of our business, but like in Web3, like it's not like we talk like we're going on our Dunder Mifflin arc. I don't know like how like but like where this will show up, and I think this is something that we're having like an internal like kind of push towards is just like sharing more about sort of the revenue side of our business, what we do. Like I think it's really important to me that like so much of what goes on in crypto, especially this cycle, is like it's not really real. It's kind of these low float, high FTV, like, L1s, whatever shenanigans with the token. And like, it's not a real underlying company, and everyone kind of knows that, right? Like, and it's fine. Like there's the pathways, but like for us, it's like, we want to be completely the opposite of that. It's like, we're a very real company. We're so real here. Touch our products. That matters a lot. Cause I think there's so much skepticism outside of crypto. There's so much skepticism of crypto. Even in crypto, there's so much skepticism of crypto, and rightfully so, right? So many things that come out of crypto just like aren't real, right? And so I think it's part of why we have such a strong thesis in like collectibles will be onboarding for people, because if you put a collectible in somebody's hand, like you can't object. This is a real item. Like you can say whatever you want to say. And I think about this. There was a friend of mine from the collectibles world, and when I shared with him for just I know him from playing Magic, and like when I shared with him that we were doing vibes, he was like, oh, like it is crypto, therefore it is a scam. And I was like, well, at least sit down and learn to play this. Like I just, and so he played the game. He really liked the game, right? And he was like, all right, well, whatever. I'm not going to do, but like, I can get over that's crypto, because he got over that because as soon as he put it in his hands, like he was in gameplay mode, right? He then started playing our online game, right? Play. End of the season rewards we pay out in crypto. So he had to make a wallet and receive crypto. Now I've looked back at that wallet, and he's like degen trading shitcoins, right? And so like
he's in the BNB trenches right now.
So this is like
that's so funny.
It's very rare that you actually onboard new users to crypto, but like I watched him go through that arc, and I think part of this is like, it is crypto, therefore it is a scam, is a very like common, and we don't think about this because we're in it too deep, but like a lot of people in the world, like that's their extent of thinking and just stops there. And it's not really a reason for it. It's just like, that's their impression, right? And so how do you get over that impression? Having something physical in their hands that gets them into the IP, into the experience, into the game, like goes, I think, a really, really long way. And I think it's a very underutilized tactic in the industry. Now, it has to be really good, right? Because this is the thing, is like, if you're coming into this being like, this is a scam, and you hand them something that like isn't on the right paper, doesn't feel right, the gameplay isn't like, they're like, oh, I have verified my thinking that this is kind of scammy and not cool, and off to the wayside, right? And so you don't just have to be as good as everything else, you must be better. That's the only way that you can convince someone otherwise, because like, when we think about this a lot with Vibes, which is like, why would anyone buy and collect anything other than Pokemon, right? Like you need to be like that is the trade-off. In when we're in a local game store, there's Pokemon on the shelf, there's Magic on the shelf, and like, why would you buy us? And like, there's a couple of reasons. I think Vibes is cuter. I think we have better print quality, better paper stock. Our foils look nicer. Like these are the reasons why we think that certain people will. Not everyone. Like not everyone's going to make that decision. We're not crazy in thinking that like every single person's going to buy us instead of Pokemon. But like, who and when and why would someone make that decision? And I think like that it drives a lot of our decision-making process. Is like, well, maybe someone buys it in because there's more chases, right? Like Pokemon, I think they're just going to start to have them soon, but historically hasn't had serialized cards. We added serialized cards, right? Pokemon doesn't disclose its print run sizes, right? We disclose our print run sizes publicly. So like there are many collectors' reasons why you might, but like if you are selling ink and paper that people hold in their hands, the experience of holding it in your hands and looking at the ink and paper must be really good, right? It's like a very fundamental thing.
It totally makes sense. I think when it comes to crypto, right, like you said, everyone calls it, especially outside of crypto, it's like, oh, it's a scam and stuff like that, like with your friend, right? But once the experience or having a tangible product, right, what you guys have, like the Vibes, like the experience it, like, oh, okay, this, I can see a little bit. There's actually, you can build products on top of it and stuff like that. And you mentioned something about like IP, right? Like you guys are looking for IP, and you guys recently acquired Moonbirds, right?
Yeah.
And I was just curious, like why, when it comes to like the IP in general, like why did you guys go direction, hey, Moonbirds could be like the face for OCAP and stuff like that?
I think like when I look at it, I think there's something very genuine about where an IP comes from and how it exists. And I think like I generally have this view where like in crypto, in the past cycles, it's been like whoever has better tech kind of wins, right? But the tech really hasn't improved this cycle. And so we see this like huge plateauing in tech innovation. And so what actually matters? What actually matters is distribution and reach and relevance, right? And so that's where IP is really good at all those things. And so, we want an IP. Now you say, why Moonbirds as the IP, right? Well, if you look, like Moonbirds is a truly crypto native IP, and there's not a lot of truly crypto native IPs, and specifically not a lot that matter and not a lot that are good, right? Like you can count them on one hand. It's probably like, I would say it's Moonbirds, Pudgy, Bored Ape, Azuki, like maybe CryptoPunks, like
in Web3, yeah, that's kind of
coming truly natively from crypto, and VFriends. I think you should probably include VFriends on that list, right?
Shout out to Gary V.
No, yeah. Gary V is a very important, like people don't like give him enough flowers for how relevant he was to what NFTs are today and what collectibles are in crypto today. Like VFriends has done a lot of really cool things. Like there's just not that many very relevant ones, right? And so, there's other ones too that I like I like Oniforce IP. Like, there's a couple that exist, but like, Moonbirds has done $1 billion in trading volume before we acquired it. It was, they went to 40 ETH. It was such an important part of that cycle that like, and they look really good. Like I just really like the art of Moonbirds. I like the art of Mythics. They have the illustrated art as well. Like it is just a good IP, right? You have to think about like Moonbirds. Proof is a company that like did not ship a lot of stuff. They had over 100, I think they made $100 million in royalties, right? And shipped almost nothing other than art. And so like, how often in life do you get the chance to like take over stewardship of an IP like that? Now, there's a lot we've changed, right? So we've changed the logo. We sort of have been doing this brand shift away from Moonbirds towards birb, which I think is very intentional. It's a little bit funnier. It's a little bit more mimetic. It's like a little bit younger. I think Moon was kind of a last cycle thing. Like there's
Is it what they called it was Moon before?
It was Moonbirds. Like what I'm saying is like last cycle we had like Safe Moon and like Terra Luna. Like to the Moon was a much bigger part of last cycle than it is this cycle.
That's very true. Yeah.
And so like like when we bought the brand, it's not like it was in the best shape, right? Like we had to do some refreshing of the brand. We had to do some updating, like make some controversial decisions. I've always like even from the proof days, like when I met Justin Mazzell for the first time, I was like, you have to change the logo. Like I just because like the pixel art worked really well, but not in two colors. It worked really well in the and so like. The logo looked so much less strong, but like we have now these illustrated ones. I think our logo designer spent 3 months on the logo.
3 months.
Yeah, people are like, but they came out so good with the eyes. We really want to get the expressive eyes in the new logo. Like the new brand is like a really big and important part from us because like I think brands do evolve and they should evolve, right? So when we acquired Moonbirds, it's like we've acquired this digitally native thing that's part of history. It's part of the time when IP in crypto was the most relevant, right? Was 2021, 2022 during the period of time of the NFT cycle. That's when intellectual property was at its peak relevance in crypto, right? And so what we got to do is pick, okay, kind of the same thing that happened in the dot-com bubble, right? All these companies got huge in the dot-com bubble. B2B SaaS.com went public on just a domain name. Bubble burst, right? And then all of the, we sort of, all these companies, but like out of that wave of bubble, like we got Amazon, we got Facebook, Google, like there are tech companies that, like the tech companies that shaped the future. Like the thesis of like, tech companies will shape the future was correct. People just got way too lost in the sauce about it and backed things that weren't real. But then like 5, 10, 15, 25 years later, like most of the largest companies in the world are tech companies that came out of that era, right? So like I think 2021, 2022 was the thesis of intellectual property coming from crypto is like definitely correct. But like every single project that exists getting these crazy, mints and it was too much, right? And so like we're now just starting to see, I think Pudgy is probably the strongest example of like something that's come out of that era into like, okay, now it is successful for all the reasons that IP should be successful in crypto, right? And so, but like, for the same reason, like there isn't one tech company that came out of the tech.com bubble. It's like, I think there's room for multiple different IPs. And by the way, IPs that approach it in a very, very different way, right? Like if like there's a lot of maybe similarities about how Luca and I think, but we like actually fundamentally as companies, we're very, very different companies. I think that's like a very important thing is like our view of the next 5, 10 years is different, which it should be. Like that's the point. Like I'm not saying that I'm correct or Luca's wrong. I'm not saying Luca's correct and I'm wrong. It's just like there should be multiple people attempting different things along a similar category with different theses, right? Like this is an important part of a healthy and growing ecosystem.
Yeah. And one thing I'm always curious about, and you mentioned Luca, and then obviously they bought Pudgy from previous creator and owner. But how is it like acquiring like an NFT collection? Like what do you how does that work? Like, they say, oh, I'm on sale, and then you just like call up someone, know someone, and then work out a deal. Like, how does that work?
I think it was pretty obvious when they sold Meebits that Moonbirds was for sale, right? Like that.
That was Yuga, right?
Yeah, Yuga. This got to be the next one, right? And, I mean, I think like this is where, us having done Vibes and like having been who I was in the space, like it's not a tough, I mean, I've been offered many NFT products over the years to run them in various capacities. And like, it just never felt like the timing was right or was the right opportunity. Like I think every kind of transaction like this is going to be a little bit different. Like I had the good fortune of kind of already having a personal relationship with Garga. Like, literally like months before that, he was at my house drinking whiskey and ripping Pokemon cards. So it wasn't like a total random reaching out. I think it was important to him too to have like stewardship of this from someone who could do good things with it, right? And I think that it wasn't a tough sell that we could do cool and interesting things with it, right? So we were in a good position. I don't know. Like I think there's a lot of NFT products out there that I wouldn't buy or I don't think are worth buying, right? Many NFT products are more of a liability to their team than they are an asset, right? And so, but like that being said, like on the other hand, there are some great ones, right? Like Moonbirds is an incredible property to steward and own.
Yeah, definitely Moonbirds. Even when it comes to like if you want to create in future the plushies, and I think there might be plushies, but like even though in Singapore, right, I saw you guys trying to use the mascot in the conference. That was hilarious. I saw Burp Guy, and I remember I was going down the escalators in Token, and I was like, wait a minute. Is that the Moonbirds mascot? That was my first time ever seeing the Moonbirds mascot. He had the QR code. That was hilarious. I thought that was a good idea, just even getting the IP out there, right, without even being in the conference.
Yeah. I mean, look, there's a lot of stuff that you can do to just like get the IP out there more and like these kind of things. And like, that to me is like table stakes, right? Like how do you just like get it out there, more people see it? Like that's not, it's exciting. But like that's not the cutting edge. Like, the cutting edge to me is like, how do you get mass distribution? How do you get new audiences from outside of crypto paying attention to it, and not even paying attention to it because it's crypto, paying attention to it because it's just a good product, right? Like that's like what you'll see about like what really defines, I think, Orange Cap Games and like our approach that I think is like we're very obsessed with like making a couple of very high quality products that we're obsessive about that are better than the existing products in the industry outside of crypto. Like that is our focus, and that's how we think we win the marginal consumer. I think when you look at like Pudgy, like their view is like, they're more about being on like billboards and licensing to a bunch of different types of products, and like and again, like I don't think that that's wrong. It's just a different approach to like how do you grow a brand, right? And like we are much more fundamentally a manufacturing company than Pudgy is, and I think that's like I think it's a very important and probably like not talked about enough distinction between the two companies. Yeah,
because I feel like a lot of people see it very similar. Obviously, you being big part of the Pudgy community and stuff like that. And I guess when it comes to like you say distribution, have a different philosophy with Pudgy's. Like, are you guys still looking for like distribution in terms of like toys, or more like the card side of things, like having Moonbird vibes eventually, I'm sure, or something like that?
We're just starting to release our capsule collection for clothing for Moonbirds. We did our Moonbirds physical collectible. Which, we haven't announced what that is yet. It's not, I don't know if it's what people expect. It's something that we're pretty excited about. That's like a new product for us. Again, like for us, it's about like really highly curated. It's products that are somewhat disruptive and innovative in their genre, right? Like putting like Vibes cards on orange core paper, manufacturing them the way we did. We do a different type of foiling treatment than others, like, serializing the sketch cards. That's, like there are things that we've done there that like, people in crypto may not have full context of why those are interesting. So we don't talk about them that much in crypto, but there are certain things that we've done in the TCG space where like, the collectibles industry notices stuff like that. And, it earns us certain partnerships and activations there too. Like, we just did at San Diego Comic-Con a partnership with PSA. We had their logo on our card. Like anyone who got graded, actually literally right now at New York Comic-Con, if you get a card graded at PSA's booth, you get a Vibes promo card with the PSA logo on it. Like that's not a type of partnership that you see often, right? So that was a really big deal and something that was really excited for us. We've done partnerships with eBay. As we've done a co-branded card with eBay as well, like those kind of things, like that's really kind of our main focus, right? Is like how do we do really cool and curated activations, actually even many of the games in TCG don't even have an online game, right? Like
Interesting.
Disney Lorcana does not have an online game. One Piece TCG does not have an online game. Flesh and Blood does not have an online game, right? Magic does and Pokemon does. Pokemon's online game, Pokemon Pocket, very interestingly, is not the same as the physical card game. They're different games. And so like, having an online game for us was a really big thing because most TCGs, especially new TCGs that launch, don't launch with one, right? And so like, again, everyone in crypto is like, oh, of course it has an online game because we're from crypto, so everything is an online game, right? But like, this is actually not a common thing in the space, right? And vice versa, like most crypto TCGs, like Parallel, Skywave, et cetera, like they don't have a physical mirrored game that's the same game, right? Like it's usually one or the other, not both. But to me, it's like, my play pattern for Magic is like I play a bunch online and sometimes I play in paper, and like that's the play pattern that we want to encourage.
Right, building great products and being innovative, even in the Web 2 sense, like what you're saying, like having different paper, having physical, digital, right, adding crypto elements, and having IP and stuff like that with Moonbirds now. And no, that is cool, and seems like different approach a little bit with Pudgy, but still reaching the masses, onboarding crypto, which is what every project is trying to do, right? How do we reach the masses and stuff like that? And
again, it's like just different ways of looking at kind of the same coin, right? Which is like, how do you get there?
Yeah. And so also, I think it's been last week. You guys announced the Burp coin, right? And I was at the event. It was really cool. I still remember like walking around asking people, okay, what do you guys think is going to be the announcement? A lot of people are like, okay, I think it's the coin. Some people are like, I think maybe something else. But no, it was really cool. I really enjoyed the event, and I was just curious, like, if anything you could share, like, what are you looking for in terms of like how does the coin play in the whole ecosystem and stuff like that?
Yeah, so I mean, we'll be sharing more kind of later, so there's only some stuff that I can talk about here, but like I think like from a maybe intellectual and philosophical level, because like it's nice to be able to like talk about this now, because I'm on a lot of podcasts before with kind of this take, but until we had made that announcement, I wanted to be a little bit more careful about it. I think like if you look at crypto, like everything is about growth, like reaching the marginal consumer, reaching the marginal liquidity, reaching the marginal audience, right? And NFTs are not what they were in 21, 22. I would love for them to be doing that kind of volume, having that kind of attention, but it's just not the case. Now, I don't think that's a bad thing. Like we very intentionally, like we could have gone straight to a fungible token without ever having an NFT, but like I actually don't think that's correct, right? Because like what NFTs let you do is they build like your core community over time, like it is the IP in a very digitally native way, et cetera. And like that gets you to a point where you can do something like announce a token, right? But why have a token is people have asked a lot about this. Is like, I mean, if you look like the marginal consumer, like especially like, let's take Korea as an example. I would say probably 95 to 98% of Korea trades only on exchanges and doesn't have a wallet. And this is because early on in Korea, there was a big exploit with the major wallet provider. And so there's almost no self-custody in Korea, right? Korea does something like 20 or 30% of all global retail trading volume, right?
That's crazy. They're like, I think Upbit, the Korean exchange, is like top 5 in the world. Just in Korea too. It's crazy.
Yeah. And so like there are many. If we don't see them as much because I think you and I are like on crypto Twitter and in the trenches and like everyone's on chain. A lot of people in crypto are not on chain, and there's not really a good like centralized exchange experience for trading NFTs, right? And so like if you look at like what a token lets you do, it just lets you reach more people, like have more audience and be more relevant, right? Tokens overall do more trading volume than NFTs. There's a lot of people like, I was at San Diego Comic-Con and, the number of people that came up to me when we were doing this activation showed me that they had like $20, $50 of Pengu on their Robinhood account or on their Coinbase account was really high. Like that's, and like, I think in crypto, we often forget that that's a huge type of audience that drives this entire market, right? And so, it just lets us reach a lot more people. I think you also see like, if Pudgy had not done Pengu, I don't think Pudgy is anywhere near as relevant as it is today, right? Like having a multi-billion-dollar FDV coin under their belt is an incredibly relevant and valuable part of what that ecosystem is today, right? And, I think there's a lot of kind of controversy. When I first met Luca, like he was like adamant, like we were not doing a token, right?
Yeah, I still remember that.
You remember those days, right? Yeah, but like, something I respect about him is I have the same belief, which is like strong opinions loosely held, right? And like, what Pengu, I don't think it's ambiguous. What Pengu did for Pudgy is it made it more relevant, it made it bigger, it made it more successful, right? And there's just so many more people that hold Pengu than would ever hold a Putty Penguin NFT. A, because there's a lot of people who just don't like NFTs, and B, because it's a cheaper, more fractional version of it, right? And so like, if we want to be a play as big as we want to be, which is huge, by the way, like really, really big, like it's a natural progression that must happen. So it wasn't a question of like if, but when. And look, like Moonbirds NFTs, we're often number one in volume. Like the day we announced, like I think like the day we announced like the token, we did more volume than like all of the other products combined, right? Like Moonbirds,
I bought myself a Mythic maybe a day or two before the announcement.
Awesome.
But yeah, I still hold it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like, look, like, I don't think you can look at the NFT space and be like, Moonbirds isn't a relevant player, if not like one of the most relevant players, right? Like I think that we've accomplished that in the time since we acquired it. When we acquired it, it was not a relevant player, right? And so like, to me, the timing of this was like, when are we relevant and successful enough in the arena that we're playing in that we must move and grow into the next arena as well? And like I think that time was very clearly like has come.
Yeah. The thing you mentioned about the token, it makes a lot of sense when it comes to retail, right? It's like a lot of people probably won't own the NFT, but if you're having exchange and stuff, and they might own a little bit here and there, right? Like let's say, like you said, right, Robinhood or exchanges, you really definitely helps reach more of the masses. Like you said, even with Pengu, right? Like people I talk to, right? I'm big in the Pengu community, and sometimes people come to the parties and they're like, I was like, do you own the NFT? They're like, no. But I was like, do you have Penguin? Majority of the people, I have like $1 of it, or I have $50 or $100, and
but like, and like, again, like I think we have this like unit bias in crypto where like, oh, like $50 is whatever, but like a lot of people with $50, like that adds up. Like that's how all of global finance works. That's how all of global retail works. Like there are some whales that do control a lot of things and they're very meaningful, but like at the end of the day, like you do not see real ecosystems existing with just whales. Realistically, like you need the person with $50, you need the person with $25, you need the person who gets their feet wet, right? Because those people, like, you just never know what that becomes. It's also like, if you want to build a multi-year, multi-decade, multi-generational brand, right? Like, it's the Zoomer who flipped some Pokemon cards and bought $25 of Pengu or Birb today. Like, that's the person in 5-10 years that's going to be continuing to be part of the brand, right? Because it's part of their story. I think that's what you see with Pokemon. Like Pokemon's going nuts right now, right?
Yeah, it's insane.
Why? But it's because like the people who grew up with Pokemon are now adults and have adult money and are going through their midlife crisis where they look back at their time when they have youth and they can't buy youth, but they can buy the Pokemon cards, right? And so what you have to think is like, look, if you look at like Solana right now, it's a lot of Zoomers. It's a lot of young guys and girls and all sorts of folk. These brands will be relevant to them in the future. I mean, I think a lot about this. Like NFTs overall occupy a lot more mind share in crypto than they feel like they should based on how much volume they're doing. When you talk to people, they talk about them, they think about them, they've thought about them a lot. And I think it's because for a lot of people, the peak of NFTs was their onboarding experience in crypto or the peak of fun that they had, right? Like the number of people I know whose Twitter handle is still like NFT something that don't even touch NFTs or would never touch an NFT right now is like very high, right? But it's such an integral part of their onboarding process that the IPs that were relevant at the time they got onboarded, I think must continue to come back as those people make money and have cycles in some form or fashion, right? Now, that doesn't necessarily mean it's just the NFT that comes back, but like this is where a token and some of these other things kind of really matter.
Yeah, definitely. It makes sense. And I think that's why we've seen like the next evolution of NFT projects, right? The big ones, right? Like the Doodles of the world, apes and stuff, release a token, right? Trying to reach the masses and stuff like that. And speaking of masses, right? And with Moonbirds, like, are you guys also looking to maybe have some toys in Walmart and stuff like that? Or maybe more of the TCG play, more in the card side of things?
So I think like we think about it a lot more like collectibles than toys, right? So like I think this is, we look at the like subtly different philosophies is like, to me, the consumer that you want to reach is like, so I don't think you want to be everything to everyone. I think you want to find the ideal consumer that has overlap with your audience, right? And to me, it's like the person who's buying and flipping Labubus, the person who's buying and flipping Pokemon cards or collecting Pokemon cards or Magic, like this is a really good consumer that I think like we want to have overlap with, right? It's not everyone, but it's this person like probably already has some disposable income, right? Like affordable luxury is a really big thesis of mine. So I think if you look, like the average age of consumer for luxury brands, Gucci, Louis Vuitton, all these, it's going down about 1 year every year for the last like 10, 15 years. This is a crazy change, right? And the average purchase size is also getting much, much, much smaller. And, sort of my take on this is like, if you look, Gen Z no longer aspires to own a house. And so they're not really saving. And so they actually have more discretionary income than past generations. Now, this is not discretionary income on the like hundreds of thousands of dollars basis, but like, Gen Z and younger millennials, like $150 t-shirt from Kith, like, all right, like why not, right? It's not like I'm saving that money for something else, all right, like $200 Pokemon, like ATB, all right, like, okay, Moonbirds collectible, like, all right, like this is, I think one of the reasons that we see collectibles doing so well is because like the traditionally what people have saved money for is a house, and this is just not aspirational anymore. And so you have more people with
disposable income
on a very specific
fun things.
Range, right? But like we're not talking about like $10,000 fun things. We're not talking about $1,000 fun things.
Well, some people do. Like I just had someone right just here and saying those Charizard cards like tens of thousands of dollars. It's insane.
But like yes, but like so that spawns out of like if you have maybe like 20, 30 friends together, and you are all, and everyone, like one of the friends is going to spend the $10,000, but like that only happens because there's 20, 30 people around them that are spending the $150, and then they want to be the coolest one, right? And so like that's a big part of the collectibles thesis is like this price range of where like you see like where does Labubu go to? Where does Pokemon go to? Like, I think part of the reason Labubu did so well is it's a $65 collectible, right? This is a very good price range, right? There's no reason to be, I had a mentor of mine early on who he was like, what you don't want to be is the worst thing you can be is top quality, cheapest price. He's like, you want to be top quality, top price, right? And so like, if you look like Pop Mart, I think is right now producing top quality, and like top price, I think is $65 for that product, right? Like that is very, very successful. Like that is a product that they could easily sell for, could easily be selling and reselling for like $20 or so dollars, but like secondary market price on Labubu is like $60 to $80, right? This is like, that is exactly the range that people want to spend it. And this is a range that like trading cards and other collectible items really hit very well. When it comes to toys, like I think the difference between a collectible and a toy is about play. Collectible is more about display and experience, right? So there can be a play element, like trading cards have a play element to them, but like a toy is something that I play and I use, and when I'm done, I throw out, right? And so this is when you ask, like, are we going the toy route? Like, to me, it's like, it's more the collectibles route. And you also asked something about distribution in, big box. Like, I think, something we are working towards is some of that big box distribution, but you have to do it piecewise and you have to do it the right way, right? The number one thing that can make a collectible not very collectible is if, like, the whole point of collectibles is to underserve demand, right? If you meet or exceed demand with collectible, it's not very collectible because there's no one else wants to buy it, right? And so, we should have to be very like intentional and conservative about like grow stepwise. Like we're distributed by a lot of major like TCG distributors and hobby distributors, which are very prestigious and important to get into because that gets you into the local game stores, right? But like, for example, like if you wanted to put, let's say, Vibes in GameStop, right? Like probably each store needs a case. So that's probably something like, that's 10 boxes. So you probably need 50,000 boxes just for GameStop. Like right now, our print run size for the last 2 releases have been 15,000 boxes. So just serving GameStop would be an increase of like basically like 4x the print run just for that account, right? Now, there is marginal distribution benefit from like the eyeballs of GameStop, and like I think the brand is good. Like, there's reasons to do it. I'm not saying that we're not going to do it, right? And it's something that we've had discussions about and generally working towards. But like you have to be really careful because if you go to GameStop and you make those 50,000 units and they don't sell, now you have this really big problem, right? Yeah. And so I think like this is why like the distribution stuff that's most important to us is like when we do a new product release, does eBay push notification to their users and put us on their stage at New York Comic Con? The answer is yes, right? Like we did that last year. We're doing that this year as well. Like when those type of distribution is really important. The major hobby distributors, do they carry us? We're in I think 3 of the 4 largest hobby distributors in North America right now. Like these kind of things are important, and I think we will get to a point where we're in the big box. Eventually, it's not a question of like, do they want us there? It's more of a question of like, do we want to produce that size and be there? And like, this is where like, again, the really intentional grow it in the right way approach. Like the worst thing that we could do is crash the market for our collectors, right? Like that's something we're very cognizant about. One of the best things that we have is we have a really awesome collector base. And so, for example, like, one of our cards sold at Golden Auctions, which is one of the top, collectibles auction houses for $12,500 like a few weeks ago.
Dang.
That's like...
Is that the highest?
That's the highest public sale for a single card. It was a PSA 9 Bunkus sketch. So like that's a pretty meaningful sale, not just in the context of vibes, not just in the context of crypto, but just like period, right? For any game. Like you don't see sales like that coming from most new games, right? So like that to me is like, like continuing to have moments like that is the most important thing. Like, will we get in bigger distribution? Yes, that is part of the roadmap. That's something we're trying to do. We're looking at other ways too of just growing the player base, growing the collector base. But like, again, like as a collectible business, you succeed by underserving demand and you fail by overserving demand. Mm. And so like we're in the business of succeeding, and that's the most important thing to us.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting you mentioned about the collectible like industry as a whole, right? Especially with the Gen Z, where like prior generations, like you said, the main goal, aspiration goal, and saving money is for a house, right? And that doesn't seem like, even for me and my peers, right, doesn't seem like a thing we want to do. We want to collect our little boo-boos. We want to do this and that. And that totally makes sense, the collectible market, where you guys are kind of being a little different from Pudgy. It's not being everything to everyone, but really, like you said, what are you guys already doing with TCG Collectibles and kind of building off that and all that? And, that's one thing, actually, quick question about like TCG and things that you guys are doing, right? Because it seems like what you guys are doing, it's from a Web 2 side of things, it's quite, you can build that. It's already a product. You guys have an audience and stuff like that. Why even like have a crypto element? Why purchase an NFT? Why like be like doing crypto stuff with TCG? Couldn't you just do TCG and then succeed like that, targeting Web 2 things and stuff?
Yes, I mean, like, look, like the beauty of crypto is, and the crypto audience is that there's a lot of overlap, but it gives you a path to have an actual, like it is really hard to launch a collectibles product. It's really hard, and it's hard to fill the empty room with who are your initial audience, your initial fans, right? Mm-hmm. Like for Moonbirds, for example, like we did, I don't know if you saw this, a few weeks ago, we did a sale. We said 24 hours, $25 a piece, Moonbirds physical collectible. We're not telling you what it is.
The blind box stuff, right?
Buy as many as you want, right? And so we sold $1.7 million in 24 hours, right? Like doing that kind of release in Web 2 is basically impossible, right? You would never have been able to do that. And so one of the things that we've done is we take those numbers. Like the day after that, I flew down to our largest distributor, who's like a very large distributor in the collectible space, and we talked to them about this, and like they'd never seen anything like it before, right? Like this is not a thing that happens even for like the creme de la creme of Web 2 collectibles. Like that's a crazy launch, right? That's insane.
Especially for a new IP.
For a new IP, like right? That hasn't had products before, right? Yeah. And so we take that, and that's opened a lot of doors for us on the distribution side, on like what birb and birb brand can be in the traditional side, right? And so this is actually kind of similar. Like when we first launched Vibes, right? The first thing we did, we did a pre-sale on BZ when it was on Blast. Before Blast's TGE, we sold 500 booster boxes in like, I think it was 7 minutes.
Oh, wow.
And like, then we took that and we went to, partners like eBay and others and like use that to land our partners. So like it's this ping-ponging back and forth, right? I think a thing that's like not talked about enough is like, in crypto, we think that people don't think about us, but collectibles people do think about us. Like it's very correlated. Like when the price of Bitcoin and ETH go up, like Magic cards go up in price. Like this is a thing. Like there's a lot of
it correlates. Like when
it correlates.
Bitcoin
There's a lot of
Magic.
There's a lot of demand in the TCG space comes from crypto people, right?
Yeah.
And so like where we think, okay, the Web 2 traditional users are this is like our holy grail to find them. Like the collectibles industry thinks about it the other way, right? They're like, we want the crypto audience. And so very much it's like a very explicit trade when we work with these partners. It's like, when we went to eBay, like, why are we going partnering? It's like, we have that audience that you want and you have the audience that we want, let's trade, right? And so like that's kind of a big part of this is like, if you look, I mean, the number of times on this trip where I've been having, crypto conversations with people that then become Pokemon conversations, it's really high. Like there's a lot of people in crypto that are buying tons and tons of Pokemon cards and other collectibles. And like, this is an audience that just like overlaps a lot. This is again, why my thesis is like, this is the way to spread. Cause like it's the lower hanging fruit audience. And some of it's like truly crypto native, but like, again, like I have a friend who does not, he is not on crypto Twitter and any of these things, right? He owns some Bitcoin and some ETH. And when his fake internet money goes up, he sells it and he buys shiny cardboard. And when it crashes, he sells his shiny cardboard and gets more fake internet money. And it just kind of goes back and forth like this, right? Yeah. And there's a lot more people like that than you'd think, where like they're not in crypto in any meaningful sense of the word, in the way that we think of it. But they own crypto, and they actually sometimes own quite a lot of crypto, because often they were quite early, right? You have to remember, Mt. Gox, one of the first crypto exchanges, was MTGOX, which stands for Magic the Gathering Online Exchange. There's a lot of people in TCG that were very, very early to crypto and just held the majors, right? And so, like, this audience is really impactful. Also, vice versa. Like a lot of people, like, I think one of the things was like in 2021, 2022 cycle, right? It was like, if you made a ton of money in crypto, like you bought a CryptoPunk, you bought like a gold Bored Ape or something. Like that was a thing that people did. Like this cycle, I feel like when I see people make like crazy amounts of money on meme coins or whatever they're making it on, the number of people that I see go buy ridiculous Pokemon collections, I'm talking like hundreds of booster boxes, like first editions, like that's kind of what they've been doing this cycle. And like the collectibles industry notices, right? Like I've sat down with my collectibles dealer friends and like, here's how you take USDC. Here's how you check if it came from Tornado Cash. Like these are things that like, I've been more and more seeing my collectibles friends ask me to help them with. And like, this is a big opportunity. Like there's not really other industries that have this kind of reach, that are growing at this kind of rate, that like are this friendly to crypto and this interested in reaching us, right? And so I think that's to me why I'm like, we're so hyper focused on the opportunity set that is collectibles, because there's such a big opportunity there, and it's just the right thing in my mind, right? Other people have different theses on how do you do, and also like I come from the collectibles world. Like me and my team, like this is the thing that we know and we know really well, right? Like Luca and his team come from Gel Blaster, and like they come from the toys world. Like this is collectibles and toys, like although they seem very similar, are like actually very different worlds, and importantly, they're very different shelves in these stores. It's literally different people who own them. So like if you look at it, like again, there is a lot of overlap. There's a lot of overlap in our thinking, but we're just approaching it from different angles, right? And of course, I'm going to think that like my way is correct.
Yeah, right. Yeah, of course, right. No, but I like how you said like the card people, the collectible people want the Web3 audience, and then you guys want Web3, want the Web2. So it's like that trade.
Yeah, it's guns and butter, right? Like there's a Pareto optimal outcome where we just like work with each other, right?
Yeah, and so they have an incentive. Web2 people work with the Web3, vice versa, right? And so there's like an exchange, and you're right about when it comes to like the collectible market and crypto is very intertwined, right?
Very intertwined.
Even for me personally, like how I got into crypto was the last cycle in 21, 22 with NBA Top Shot, right? And a digital card game. I'm a big NBA fan, and then this merged, right? And then we got the NFT collections, the apes came out and other ones as well. And so it does seem like that side of things, the collectible cards and crypto, is very entwined. I didn't even notice that, but like more you mention it.
But I think it's also like if you've gotten over in your head that you're spending $10,000 on a piece of cardboard, it is not a huge leap to get over in your head that you're spending $10,000 on a monkey JPEG. Like it's just not, right. Or a moon or an owl JPEG. Like these are like not that different of exercises, right? Like no one's gonna sit here and be like, oh, the value of this trading card is the value of the paper and the ink on it. No, like it's not. You can evaluate, coins, for example. Like there's in the coins world, there's a very big question of like, is this coin more valuable because it's this coin from this year and it's collectible, or because I can melt it and it's gold? And in almost all, like the coin market for the collectible side is crashing as the metal values go up, because the more and more people are just melting stuff down, right? Like this is a very interesting collectibles market that is on the decline, whereas like Pokemon cards and trading cards are on a growth, right. and vinyl figurines and blind boxes are on a growth. Like coins and stamps are like completely the opposite direction, right? And this is not a collectible that has maintained its relevance to the younger audience. Yes, but I mean, who uses stamps? Yeah, who uses coins?
Yeah, I know my parents were collecting coins and stamps back in those days, right? But now we don't see. It doesn't seem as cool. But no.
But like when you think about collectibles, right? So much of what collectibles is today, like in the same way, like so much of like what NFTs and NFT collectibles are come from Gary Vee. Like so much of what like
he had some influence in me even getting into Top Shot and cards.
Yeah. He did an incredible. Like in the same way, like coins and stamps are like really relevant to anything that's going on. I mean, like in collectibles more broadly, right? Like so much of this world comes from that world, like grading, all these like that. It's there first. Like cards is a relatively new thing, right? Compared to stamps and coins.
Yeah, and. Also, you mentioned something that I was really curious about, like how you said you have a background, collectibles and cards and stuff like that. I was curious, like as a kid, you always were collecting things, playing Pokemon cards.
I used to trade on the playground, like card shark people. Like I used to buy and sell. a lot of trading cards, and like I have a really good memory for numbers. So back in the day. Like, and it was for the
you were in the math team. You seem like
no. I was on the chess team. I was friends with the math team. I was not good enough at math to be on the math team. But like back in the day, you didn't have like a price list on your phone so you used to go to shows and you trade, and like whoever knew the prices better, you could just make money. And so like I would just go that morning and memorize the price list of all the top cards and go and like.
Where would you see the prices? Where would you go before the internet? Where would you?
This is not before the internet.
Okay.
Yeah, this is like, you know, you have it on your computer.
Okay,
like
but you just don't have a smartphone. You didn't have a smartphone back in those days.
But like there wasn't a smartphone. Like you know, like it wasn't, you know,
accessible as it is now. Yeah.
Like and you know, when you trade with people, it's like, all right, like what do you price this at? What do you price it? And then you like. And like that's what, and so that used to be how I used to make money and like fun startups and stuff that I would do. And like, you know, I got to a point where I could go at card shows to like one dealer booth and buy a card from them and then go sell it to the dealer next door if I knew their buy list price, right? And so like that was a lot of how I used to, and like kind of got into this scene of doing that from like, you know, when I was quite young. Like I used to like, you know, open like eBay accounts with like Amex gift cards because I didn't have a credit card, like, you know, like all sorts of stuff that you can't do today. Like, very much you're not able to do that on eBay anymore. But like, you know, that was such a big part for me. And really what's crazy about that period of time too is like for a very long time, most of my net worth was just trading cards. And that was an incredibly good trade. Like you have to understand like Magic the Gathering cards, you know, over 4, 5, 6 years period, they're not doing as well now as they had at that period of time. But there was a growth period of time where like from when I was first buying them, I mean, they were up 10x, like everything. Anything that you held over that period, not like quite anything, but like the major stuff was like, you know, it was outperforming the S&P, it was outperforming everything else. And so like, you know, like, I no longer is that the case, but like for like in terms of Magic's price performance, but also in terms of just like my own personal net worth. But like, I think like being in that mentality and having had that successful kind of return was really helpful to me, and being like, all right, like crypto seems like what Magic was back at that time, in terms of its growth and adoption and like opportunity set, and like, you know, hold a bunch of stuff and like, you know, hold tokens of the things that you think about and trade and all those kind of things, and hold the majors and hold the relevant ones. But also sometimes there's alpha. Sometimes there's, you know, take a contrarian bet. Like what's the card that you think is better than everyone else thinks? What's the collectible that you want to own? And like, for me, a lot of my success in Magic was like, what is the card that I want to own? Right? Probably someone else will want to own it too. And like, you know, you learn a lot from that. Like, for example, like something that I learned that I think, you know, people don't realize enough in crypto is like, there's really a very distinct market for like the best and rarest from everything else. Right. And like in between is kind of tough to deal with, because like there's someone who is price inelastic to just the nicest thing. And there's someone who wants like anything they can get their hands on, right? And the cheapest. And so like
try to flip it or whatnot.
Yeah, this is why you think you see people trading grails and floors mostly in NFTs, right? Like that is a behavior that tracks with what was going on in collectibles.
Yeah. You know, that's actually interesting. Yes. That totally makes sense now, how the NFT and the collectible market is so close together, because there's kind of the same audience, right?
It's the same shit. Like no, it's just like the same thing, right? Like you have someone come to you. Yeah. It's like there is a person who's like, I just want the best.
Yeah.
And like the market for that person is almost uncorrelated to, not totally uncorrelated, but it's not that correlated to like, I want the cheapest entry to this, right?
Yeah. And I was just curious, like, Spencer, you were talking about how like even growing up, right? You were on eBay using gift cards and stuff like that, trading Magic cards and all that. I was just curious, like, how'd you get into crypto? Yeah.
So like I've kind of always had crypto. So like my friends and I used to buy like Coinye coin for each other as a joke back in the day, like in Dogecoin.
Wow. What year was that? Like 20? When was Dogecoin? Like 20? I don't know. 20.
This was a while ago. we unfortunately none of us have been able to find our Dogecoin from that era, but like it's very, very, very valuable if we were to find it. Well, it used to be like the gag gift. If you went to someone's birthday party and you forgot to get them a gift, you just get them some Dogecoin. We're not even convinced we even really purchased it. Like, you know, I have like cards that are like, here's some Dogecoin. Sorry, I forgot a gift. Like, you know, but like, to me, NFTs was like the really like going from like small to like part of what I was doing, like a big part of what I was doing. It just made sense to me. I was kind of my professional career, I was doing more venture investing stuff. And so I was like, oh, NFTs is just like kind of venture investing, but with trading cards, like this makes a lot of sense to me, right? Like I understand both of these worlds. Like all of my quant friends from Chicago were like, you know, we're trading them, and like I was like, oh, they're trading this like it's a public market, but it's actually more like a collectibles market. Like I can trade PvP against quants and like eat their lunch, right? Because there's so many primitives and assumptions that you make if you're trying to treat collectibles like a stock market where they just don't behave the same way, right? And so I saw like a big part, people don't talk about this enough, a big part of the 2021, 2022 bull market was that like all of the like hedge funds and HFTs and quant funds had restrictions on people trading stocks in their personal accounts, but no restrictions on trading crypto in their personal accounts. So much of the volume, there's specific collections where I would say maybe like 70 to 90% of the trading volume was quant market makers at Susquehanna Investment Group that I know who are friends of mine, like PvP market making each other on NFTs. Like that was like a big part of that cycle. Was like and
they were stuck at home during the lockdown, pandemic,
bored,
and stuff. Yeah,
bored, smart, like to trade, right? And we're just degenerates. And so like this is a great overlap, right? This was a huge. And so a lot of these, a lot of these quant firms now have a lot more rules about you can't trade crypto in your PAs because now the firm itself is trading crypto and these kind of things. But like so much of that bull market was like random finance and hedge fund people and like just like being degenerates in their PA because they could be, right? And like that's a great bit. Like the like those are people with lots of money, right? And so I had this thesis of like, oh, they're trading this like a stock. I mean, there's a lot of base assumptions of how liquidity and price action works, of just like the efficiency of a market that the stock market has, which are incorrect base assumptions of how you think about like collectibles markets. And so like a lot of my trading was on that arbitrage.
Oh, so NFTs is kind of, you would say, the gateway for you even.
Yeah, NFTs got me into crypto. Yeah, 100%, like full time, right? Like I always had crypto, but like full time into crypto was NFTs. I mean, like I was like day trading random shit before that, but like, like not in a deeper sense.
Right. And that's when you start Spencer Ventures, right? During that time, or was that?
Yeah, so I started Spencer Ventures like a little bit into that. So like, we launched like maybe like 2-ish months before FTX collapsed, the fund. And
you bought a lot of pudgy penguins, right? NFTs.
Yeah, we bought a ton of pudgy penguins. We bought them on Blur. There was a period of time where I was a couple of the top wallets on Blur were me, like not just one of them. And so like, our first really good trade with the fund was buying pudgies on Blur, getting the Blur airdrop. The pudgies did really well, like that kind of stuff. So it was a really good time to be deploying. Like we were buying like $1,000 ETH. Like, it was a great time.
Yeah. I remember, I think the first time I heard of you was you were on a BoDoggos show with Pio and those guys. And you would always be the guy that the market analysis, they would go to you for the market analysis. You would be like sometimes, I guess, a regular, right?
I was on the show. I was on the show actually daily for quite a while.
Yeah, daily,
for a bit. And like they kind of, it was funny because I was just like, just buy penguins, because like there just wasn't that much else to buy, and it was such an obvious trade. And people were like, oh, you give us other plays. Like there are other plays during that period of time. It was just the right trade, and so I think a lot of the like people who have been along with me since that show era are like, you know, like, I don't know, it was exciting to see like who, when we announced buying Moonbirds, like who immediately bought Moonbirds, because they're like, oh, like this just makes sense, right? I was like, we were kind of quiet. I was like, yeah, I don't know, it just made sense to me, right? Like just, if you know anything about our history, like this is a play, right?
100%, 100%. And then after doing Spencer Ventures, and then when do you guys do OCAP games? When did you start OCAP games? Was like a year or two afterwards, or?
Yeah, it was like 2.5-ish years. So like,
And what made you decide like, hey, I'm gonna go towards that route instead of like the other venture route and do the TCG, create a card game with my penguins and stuff like that?
Yeah, so I mean, like OCAP games kind of started. Like I was talking with Luca in Miami, and I was like, look, like, plushies are great, but I think you really need to do a trading card product. And he was like, this makes sense, but we looked at some of the other people that make trading card products, like the major guys that do this as a service, and like the quote was like $10 million in 3 years. And I was like, I don't know if that's the thing you should be doing right now. And I was like, I don't think this can be like that hard. Like let's try and make it. And so we spun out a separate company, did a separate fundraise, and like, we made Vibes as like, a pudgy, as the trading card for pudgies. And I think, as I've kind of mentioned, like my thesis is on collectibles. And so I was like, this makes sense. It's a good use of their IP. It benefits like, pudgy, I think, in a meaningful way, like, which is my bags. And like, it's an opportunity to do something really cool. But like, even from the get-go for Vibes, it's like, is the goal of the company for Orange Cap Games to like make other trading card games for other IPs? Is it to put more IPs into Vibes? Is it to
right now it's
do
just
other things
like penguins, right?
It's just pudgy. We did just do a collab. So in our most recent release, we licensed Nyan Cat IP. So there's a Nyan Cat card, which is exciting. So it's the first sort of like universes beyond, so to speak, of Vibes. But yeah, I mean, like I think like that was sort of the origins of it, and you lead to the natural conclusion of like, what do you continue to do as Vibes is growing and doing well? How do you like grow the company? And again, like this was the decision of like we should also have our own IP. Like that made sense, right?
Yeah. No, that makes sense, and the progression. It's really interesting to see kind of your progression of like growing up. You did Pokemon cards, trade cards in the playground, right? Went to card shows, and we're always doing flipping and stuff like that, collecting things, and then to NFTs, got interested in that, and then starting your own TCG company and all that. Now NFT, having your own NFT company, and it seems like what you were interested is already from the beginning when you're younger to what you do now. It's about the same.
I mean, like,
you have adult money now, like you said.
Yeah. This is truly. This is like I think
you don't have to use Amex gift cards.
I'm the poster child of like you can just do stuff. Like in life, like I don't know, like you get to choose what the things you get to do are, and like I think like that's what being having success and having money lets you do is have choice and freedom, right? And so like if you're not exercising that choice and freedom, like what's the point of having money, right? And so like I feel very thankful, like my NFT trading, Pudgies, all these kind of things, Blur, all these, like, I happen to do pretty well. And so I have the opportunity to do the things I want to do. And, I love trading card games. And I want to make a trading card game. Like, we got to do that. Like, I love NFTs and I want to run NFT. We got to do that. It's like, people are always like, oh, like, there's so much risk, or like, what if it doesn't work out?
Yeah.
What if you don't even try it? Like, I don't know. Like, of course things are risky. Like, professionally, I invest in things that are risky. Like, startups have a 98% failure rate. Like, that's not a reason not to do something, right? Like if you want to do it, just go and do it. You're not going to be younger tomorrow. You're not going to have like more it's not like it's never ever ever going to be guaranteed. And like I think this is something that I was pretty transparent about with our community too. For Moonbirds is like I don't know how this is going to go. I think this will go well. That's why I'm doing it. But like it could go terribly, and it still could, right? Like I don't know, right? For me, it's like look, I think I have a vision of how this should play out. I have the steps that I think we need to take. I think we know. I know that we can take those steps. We're well-resourced enough. We have enough connections. We can talk to all the people we need to talk to, can raise money from the people we need to raise money from. And I have a vision of where we're going. Is that vision going to be correct? Well, I think so. That's why that's the vision. But like, could I sit here and tell you 100% sure that it's no? I think it's ridiculous, right? And so like, that's a little bit different. I think some other founders in the space, like, this is not a dig at anyone. Some people are like, 100%, like, I'm a game theorist. I'm a game like we are all playing a game, and this is the game that I'm playing right now. Is like, how do we have a successful collectibles company? How do we have a successful NFT? How do we have a successful token? And how do all of those tie together, right? And I think there's a vision in my mind where all of those are interwoven, and success in one builds the success of the other, and they're very sort of net positive to each other, right? That's my vision of where we're going, and I think we've shown that. I think we've achieved that so far, but like, could it go off the rails? Yeah. I mean, anything can, right? Like, I think, it's naive to think that it couldn't, right? And so, but for as much as it could go off the rails, could it 10x from here? Could it get exponentially bigger? Yes, definitely, right? Like it could do that. And so, I think when people evaluate, it's like, well, what do you think the chances are of each of those outcomes, right? Like, and I think, for most people, it's like they underprice the resources they have at hand if they really commit to doing something. And there's a lot of resources. Like, we are at the forefront of a growing industry that is only getting bigger, only getting more adoption. There are not that many cool or interesting things happening in the space relative to how big that adoption is, which means that more people than there should be are sitting at home thinking, oh, I don't want to do it, or I shouldn't do it, or I can't do it. Like, you can. There's the number of people that are begging for someone to come bring a novel or interesting idea in front of them is so high in this space. And like, it doesn't have to be something a bajillion times different. It could be a different take on a similar thesis, right? Like, for us is like, I think revenue matters a lot. I think collectibles is the best path to revenue in crypto today. I think intellectual property is the best path to revenue. That is why we own Moonbirds and are making Moonbirds physical collectibles. But additionally, like, we are not just making Moonbirds physical collectibles, because that would probably not in a vacuum be enough revenue to grow at the speed and rate we want to grow. That's why we have other products like Vibes. It's why we are making orange core paper that we might sell to other games. It's why we're investing in some of the other things that we're doing as a company, is because like in the same way that PopMart doesn't just sell Hirono, like, in order to be a successful company, there's many facets to that, right? So this is my vision of where crypto is and where I can play a role in it, and the contrarian view I have, and the unfair advantage, and how I'm going to leverage the resources, right? But again, I think there's just a lot more resources that most people have, and I we're very fortunate, like, because of who I am in the space, like, we have a lot more resources than most. But there are resources out there, and you don't have access to them yet. There are ways to build your, access to them, right? Like, you mentioned my being on the BoDoggos podcast. I was on a podcast at 9 a.m. every day for years.
I still remember that. I used to watch that almost every day. Yeah.
Yeah. And that was a lot of work. It was exhausting, but like, would I be where I am today and have the resources I had today if I didn't put in that kind of work to, do that kind of thing? Like, I think definitely not.
Yeah. I think one thing like you said about like just even when you have an idea, just even though the failure is high, why not try and do it, right? Like I think oftentimes, like you said, people, not just in Web3 in general, like even trying to build a startup and stuff like that, it's just they hesitate to make the move because, oh, what if I fail? Or like you said, 98% of startups fail and stuff like that. And yeah.
But like, yes, fail. That, I mean, that happens all the time. Yeah. Like, the only thing that like sucks is if you fail without really trying. Like if you fail without really trying, then you should feel bad about yourself. If you really tried and you just failed, then you failed.
Yeah.
Right. And like, people will be upset. It's sad. There's nothing more like personally difficult than not succeeding at something you really put a lot of effort into. Right. But like, it's not like you're going to walk away from that experience not having learned, not having been better. Like everyone it's truly very, very rare, too impossibly rare that people like the number one quality for a good founder is do they put themselves out there, right? And like if you put yourselves out there, you must have failed, right? Like there's just no way that you would have. If you're someone who puts themselves out there, then you must have failed, and you must have failed many times, right? And so like, it seems a little like cliche, but like the actual worst outcome is not failure. The actual worst outcome is middle success. The worst outcome is a zombie company. The worst outcome is a company where it doesn't really make sense to shut it down, but it's not growing. That's the absolute worst outcome. Failure, if like, we just got to shut it down, means you can go on to the next thing, right? But like zombie company is like, you kind of should feel obligated to stick around. Like that's the worst outcome. Best outcome is, huge growth, high success company. But like it's actually truly very rare that zombie companies happen.
Yeah.
And even in that case, like there's a point where, some people step away, they bring in other management, et cetera, like, and you just move on to the next thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's good. That's good. Man, Spencer, it's been a really amazing time with you talking about it. And I do this with every guest before we head out and stuff like that. But what is, I guess, what's next for you? What are you hoping for in the next month or so as we close out this Q4 and stuff like that? Yeah,
I mean, so like, our big next push is around ticker birb, the token, and everything that goes along with that. There's some other stuff. Moonbirds physical collectibles coming out is really important to us. The success of that product is really meaningful. There's a few other things that we haven't necessarily announced yet that we're pretty excited about too. But yeah, I mean, like, look, we just need to lock in. We have a really big moment coming up for ourselves and for our community, and like, it's just so important that we get it right. And if we don't get it right, it's going to really suck for everyone. So like, that's kind of where I'm at right now. Is like the next unit of time for me is really lock in on making sure that we do everything we need to do to make this as successful as it can be.
Yeah, amazing. Well, we appreciate you being here, and yeah, good luck with everything.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me.
I look forward to it. Yeah.
Yeah, burbish.
Awesome. Let's go.